Hello, welcome to our Spotlight series, where we delve into the journeys and insights of inspiring leaders shaping the future of work. Today, we are excited to have Elsie Akinsanya with us. Hi, Elsie.
Hi, Angie.
Hi. So, Elsie is a seasoned and impactful human resources leader with extensive experience across various human capital roles. Elsie is currently a people director for one of the business groups at Lloyd's Bank in London, sorry. And she also serves as a non-executive director and committee chair in a board, showcasing her strategic proficiency in the HR landscape. Finally, Elsie is also a trusted advisor and coach to executive leaders. So with this introduction, I want to welcome you, Elsie, to VA's Spotlight series.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, me too, actually. Thank you so much. So, Elsie, tell us, your career spans multiple geographies and HR roles. Can you share a pivotal moment in your journey that shaped your approach to human capital management?
Oh, I can. I'm going to go back to your intro for a second, because actually I look after two businesses in Lloyd's Banking Group. So I look after the corporate and institutional business, and I also look after the business and commercial business. They're two quite distinct businesses because of our client segments. So a couple of things have shaped my approach to human capital management, to answer your question. And the pivotal ones, I think, was when I first got my teams. Up until probably about 7 years into my career, I had been an individual contributor in many instances. And then when I was promoted and I had a team of people around me, I really had to start thinking about how do you get the best performance from individuals so that they can be a truly high performing team. That was very critical for me, was to start to understand people as individuals and not as numbers on a spreadsheet, because you're looking at so many different things at the same time. And that really helped me think about how do I support leaders to think about touch points for individuals and those key moments that matter. That was key. The other thing that really shaped my thinking around leadership, around human capital management specifically, was actually when we really started to leverage the use of data. And I will be first to admit that I was, occasionally my children still say that I am, a little bit of a technophobe. But the minute you start to understand the power that tech gives you, it's quite addictive. And I think just understanding the ability to synthesize data to really give leaders and the business proof points, where that opens a conversation. Those were real transitional moments for me in my career.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to touch also on this other role as non-exec board director and chair of the Remuneration and Appointments Committee. What unique perspectives do you think you bring to these roles, and how do they influence your decision making?
So I think it's fair to say that I was on a non-executive director. I stepped down last year because I was moving to a different geography and the time zone wouldn't have worked. So I stepped down from the board. All that being said, I was very intentional about seeking a board role, because one of the things I was very thoughtful about was, as most large organizations, you don't get to go deep in certain areas. And one of the areas I was very mindful that I was lacking was depth around executive compensation. And so I was very intentional about seeking an opportunity to have depth in that space. And that was why I did that role. What I love about being a non-executive director is the fact that you are not in the doing, you're in the advisory. And that sits really well with my coaching profile and my love for coaching, because what you're doing is asking the right questions so that you're triggering different thought processes for the executives, and you're showcasing your experience beyond that particular institution, and you're bringing external thoughts into the room for people to consider. And those for me are some of the key skills. And just the ability to stand back and take a really objective view, because you're not in the details. But what you are in is supporting the executive team to really think about how do we become best in class in whatever we're delivering.
So for HR professionals out there, you definitely recommend it.
I think we as HR professionals have such a wealth and breadth of experience, and we see so many things that actually we're quite privileged. I think HR is quite a privileged role and profession to be in. And so to be able to take that experience and knowledge and put it in a different organization and really help them grow and challenge themselves, I think it's magic.
Okay. You've worked as a trusted advisor to executive leaders. In your view, what common challenges do they face, and how do you help them navigate these complexities?
I think it's fair to say that the challenges are similar and yet different. So similarities will always be, how do I create the best organization in order to continue to be commercially viable, commercially profitable? All of those things are true. I think actually, if you look at the world pre and post-pandemic, and you'd have heard the term the polycrisis that we have, right? It's just one thing after another, and people are having to cope with multiple things at the same time. I think it's fair to say that the challenges senior leaders are facing now is very different. The challenges include everything from how do you get your workforce to still be engaged, to still be connected in a hybrid world, right? And we have multiple generations in the workforce. So how do you ensure that connectivity remains viable and valid? How do you drive high performance in a world where people are making very different decisions about their career journeys? How do you position your company if you are truly global with all of the geopolitical challenges that we're all seeing every single day? So I think all of those challenges, they're multifaceted, but the common theme is that the world is moving at pace. The world is moving at such a fast pace that leaders themselves, right, need that ecosystem of support underneath them. And sometimes it's as simple as, frankly, being a safe space for them to have conversations where they can't have anywhere else, even amongst their peers, because everybody wants to show that they're strong, that they're coping, etc. Sometimes it's as much as being a human to your senior exec and being that place where they can truly just be authentic. Sometimes it's about really challenging their approaches to some business decisions that they're taking. And that requires a level of subtlety, right? Because most leaders don't like to be told. And it's about understanding, have you built that trust with them? Have you built that relationship sufficiently enough for you to be able to challenge, always in a respectful way, right? You want to treat people the way you want to be treated. But when you can see something because of your experience, because you might have seen it play out somewhere else, because somebody else may have shared their experience with you, I think as HR professionals, it's incumbent on us. I take real ownership of saying, might I disagree with you? Might there be a different way we think about this? Could we consider? Might we look at this slightly different? Just being in the room and giving that healthy tension, I think it's just a gift that we give our senior leaders.
Okay, you've mentioned the world of hybrid work, and obviously as organizations increasingly embrace digital transformation, how do you see coaching evolving to meet the needs of leaders in a technology-driven world?
Coaching is my sweet spot, right? So I will always believe, I have a belief in the power of human to human coaching. I do think that tech is an enabler of everything. And actually, if we look at tech being an enabler of coaching, I see it as an opportunity to leverage tech in synthesizing data, right, around coaching. So, for example, right now I'm in the process of doing a 360 feedback for one of the individuals that I'm coaching. Having the ability to deploy tech, AI into synthesizing that data to create some themes for me that I can then work with the coachee on is magic, right? It consolidates hours and hours of work into like a 10-minute gig. But the human overlay of that is where the power of coaching is. I do think that at more junior levels, actually, there's a lot that we can use tech to use as a coaching. And just thinking about, nudges, as we call them, right? Those things that somebody might have committed to doing as part of their, conversations, 360s, performance reviews, and having an AI or tech tool that enables or prompts and reminds people about, you committed to this, how might you do it in this moment, is super powerful. But I think it's a partnership, and tech is an enabler and not a replacement for coaching.
So with your global HR experience, how do you approach managing multidisciplinary teams across different cultures and regions?
Oh, I love this, because I had the privilege when I worked in my previous organization of leading a global team. So presence in Asia, in the US, in Europe, and actually one of my learnings, I think it's really important to say, in that time I learned that there is no one size fits all, especially when you're talking about multicultures, right? Even small things like performance management and performance conversations, the tonality that you would use with a US-centric team is very different to the tonality you use with an Asia-centric team. So that was key for me, is just understanding that you have to be culturally astute and attuned to the various geographies. One of the key things that I also did, and I will continue to do it with multidisciplinary teams, is really bringing them together. Because I think that the learning that happens when you bring subject matter experts, different subject matter experts, into a room, but point them in the direction of one topic, you get the diversity of thought. And so when we talk about diversity, normally we talk about demographics. Actually, there is power in bringing that multicultural lens, but multidisciplinary lens to a particular challenge. So I'm very, very intentional about bringing multiple subject matter experts and deploying them across a problem, because the way somebody in Asia will see it will be very different from the way somebody in EMEA will see it. And leveraging that power and harnessing that power is super important. And honestly, I'm going to add this in because we never talk about it enough: fun. Fun.
Yes, I love that.
It is. We all spend a disproportionate amount of time working.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying it, what's the point? So
yes.
I'm a huge advocate of fun and joy in work, and bringing together multi-teams, and just sometimes just having a team meeting that is all about, how was your weekend? I used to, during COVID, we all did all sorts of fun things. But during COVID, I would just bring across lots of teams across the region. We were present in the company I worked for before in 55 countries. And we would just have a conversation about how people were coping with being in lockdown.
Okay. Yes, I love what you're saying. And I think that the pandemic has shown us some possibilities as well, which is amazing, actually. All right, so coaching is an essential part of your role. In your view, what are the key qualities that make a coach effective for executive leaders?
So coaching is also my sweet spot. I love it. So I'll start there because I am slightly biased. And I think three things. One is listening. Just being a very intentional listener is a critical quality of a good coach, because there are nuances that you hear when you're really listening with the intention to understand versus the intention to reply. And it allows you, when you really listen deeply, it allows you to probe, and it allows you to go to places that even the individual who is being coached may not be aware that they needed to explore, but because you are coaching with a level of intensity and intentionality, it's really a powerful unlock. So I would say listening is a core skill and a core competency to deploy. I genuinely think that keeping with your own professional development as a coach is super, super important. I qualified, I will show my age here. I qualified as a coach 20 years ago. This was before coaching became fashionable, right? I went and I did a coaching qualification course because I was really mindful that as I became more senior, my work was much more about enabling leaders to be successful than anything else that was doing with processes and policies and all of the other stuff we do. And I knew that I needed to get some tools in my toolkit. And so having the right tools to deploy as part of your professional development is so important, and continuously refreshing that is super important. And the last thing I will say for any coaching, especially coaching with senior executives, is making sure you contract properly. So that the contracting relationship as you go into the coaching program and revisiting that contractual relationship every so often, I think is particularly important, especially when we all know, right, coaching can veer into therapy, it can veer into counseling, and it's none of those things. And so constantly reviewing your coaching contract, I think those are three key things I would call out. And lots of other things, but those are the three things I would call out.
Thank you. Finally, what advice would you give to any aspiring HR professional looking to make a meaningful impact in their organizations?
Keep learning, right? I still today learn every day. Most of my emails start with, please help me understand, right? And I don't mean that facetiously, right? I'm new into an organization, well, relatively new, 21 months in, and I'm still learning. So it's really important to have a learning mindset as you continue to grow in your career and still be open to opportunities. Be okay with change, because change is the new constant, right? And a lot of us, will say, oh, I love change. Let's be honest, as human beings, nobody loves change. We are baked to we are baked to like process. We're baked to like what we know, right? That's just the human in us. So I would say, get comfortable with change. When people say to me, I love change, honestly, alarm bells go off in my mind. It does, because I don't think any human being is designed to love change.
It's not so natural to us, yes.
It's not natural, right? It's not natural, but learn to embrace it. Learn to be okay with it, because that's just life. And build your network. Build your network. And I found that the power of your network, you know it only when you need it. You don't realize it in the moment, but when you need it and that there's an ecosystem behind you, build that network. Do good on the journey. is what I would say, because it always pays back.
Well, thank you, Elsie, for all of that. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for sharing these invaluable insights and all your experience with us today. Your commitment to strategic HR leadership and advocacy, and actually your passion for diversity, which is really coming up, is really inspiring. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you, or continuing to see you, shaping and impacting the world of HR. Yes.
Thank you, Angie, and thank you for having me. Thank you for
Thank you.